The medieval debate about women was never really about women. It was about society. In fact, women were just being used as tools to showcase the actual issues in the society of medieval Florence. We have Giovanni Boccaccio and Jacopo Passavanti. Boccaccio and Passavanti are two prime examples of people who debated over this very topic through their writing. If you don't know who they are, Boccaccio and Passavanti are famous Italian authors from medieval Florence, with differing views on society. Giovanni Boccaccio, the one as shown in the image, was born in 1313 to a wealthy merchant and a banker. His father, wanting him to follow in his footsteps, sent Boccaccio to the Naples for work and study. This, however, ended up exposing him to the beauty of classical literature, mixed in with aristocratic court life, romance novels, scholars, and educated noblewomen. It's thought that his experiences in Naples shaped his human-centered outlook of the world, and he quickly became interested in understanding and writing about human emotion, desire, wit, and intelligence, social hypocrisy, and then just the everyday lives of ordinary people. A major turning point in his life, though, was the Black Death. If you don't know what it is, it's a deadly disease outbreak that spread across Europe in the 1300s and killed millions in just a few years. Now, this devastated Florence and inspired Boccaccio to write his most famous work, the Decameron, which reflects the chaos of medieval Florence society and the way people found little ways, such as storytelling and connection, to cope with fear and suffering. On the other hand, you have Jacopo Passavanti. He grew up in a very different environment. He was also born to a well-respected and wealthy family in Florence, but he was born around 1302. Unlike Boccaccio, Passavanti was not pushed towards a life of trade. At a very young age, he entered a religious life and became a Dominican friar. If you don't know, Dominicans focused heavily on preaching, education, morality, and the protection of Christian teachings. He studied theology in major intellectual centers where he was trained in religious scholarship, and because of this, he began to focus on sin and salvation, moral discipline, the dangers of earthly pleasure, and the importance of guiding society back towards God. He became a famous preacher in Florence, delivering sermons to large crowds during the time just after the Black Death. Passavanti's book, The Mirror of True Penitence, is a religious work, and it teaches Christians how to repent for their sins and live a moral life. So through sermons, stories, and examples, Passavanti emphasizes confession, self-reflection, and obedience to God as the path to salvation. And he very much puts a strong emphasis on women as the examples. Now, there are many articles looking into both the Decameron and the Mirror of True Penitence. One of them is the Griselda tale and the portrayal of women in the Decameron. Now, in this one, you'll see in the highlighted text, and to most readers, Griselda's joyful satisfaction with the restoration of her children and her wifely status as a sole reward for her patience and humility is both psychologically unconvincing and a violation of poetic justice. We also see embarrassed men even in the 14th century. Now, there is definitely a strong implication of using humor to sort of shock everybody into doing the right thing rather than using women as the moral wrong. On the other hand, you have Jacopo Passavanti's The Charcoal Burner from Nevers, where, if you look at the text on the screen, the woman becomes the moral correction where she has sinned and now she has to pay for it. And Jacopo Passavanti uses this to sort of bring society back towards God by scaring them away from doing the wrong thing. but he tends to only use women to do so. This on the screen is a excerpt from Silvia Negri's Revisiting Gendered Expressions of Humility, an examination of sources from late medieval Italy, where she looks at Passavanti and Dante's works. Now, I highlighted the arrogant woman by contrast is typified as the woman who loves to be looked at and praised for her beauty, or the young damsel who puts all her efforts into good looking, which in this context, compared to society now, it has such a different tune to it. I say this because women in the current era are very much expected to look good, whereas in medieval Florence, it seems that those who attempted to spend time to look good on a consistent basis were considered arrogant and therefore sinners. But then, despite Passavanti's view, if you look at such articles, it is shown that a lot of women were actually educated in literacy and numeracy, and they were very capable individuals. So Passavanti and Boccaccio had very different views of women and the way that their skills could be put to use. A big part of that difference was definitely based on their religious status. So Boccaccio, he was very far away from Christianity. He was a humanist. He completely just depended on the classical culture. Whereas Jacopo was Passavanti, he was very, very religious, he was very into Christianity. He's a Dominican priest and architect. He was just very into his religion. So this difference in religion is likely the basis of their societal views, and then it's all based on religion.